Thank you. Much better.
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch
Thank
Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
Yeah, you sound a little bit better. Okay, that's good.
I'm still a little congested,
Yeah, you can hear
but
it.
Yeah.
for some reason that's not, I have no other symptoms. Oh, a touch of a cough. Chaim, Chaim.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. Rabbi, I
But
give you a lot of credit giving a class day in, day out,
Especially
when you're not feeling well.
no, that's, I mean, yesterday it was a little just because of, I guess maybe because of fasting. I don't know if that's what it was.
That
Baruch
makes
Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
So, okay, so in the Mimer we're learning, the brothers need, Yehuda's brothers actually we're going to learn it, I think, today in Chumash Chitas. As a matter of fact, the blessing that Yaakov gives to all 12 sons. And Yehuda, your brothers will acknowledge. So in the terms that we're learning over here, the acknowledgement is when it comes in prayer, we need to have as a preface to the Amida, to the Shemona Esrei, which is represented by Yehuda, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, different two elements of the Shema, the two paragraphs of the Shema, which is Reuven and Shimon, as we've explained at great length. And Levi is Emes v'Yatziv, which is at the conclusion of the Shema. Sorry, give me 1 second here. A bit warm, even though it's freezing outside. But warm on the inside. Okay. So that's necessary to have the preface to the Amida, to the Shemona Esrei, where we stand before Hashem, and we're completely, our soul's completely connected at that point. Excuse me. So that's in reference to prayer. But then there is Yehuda represents the Jew in me. The divine soul in me. That part that acknowledges, right, Haidah, which Yehuda comes, the acknowledgement of God and the soul, divine soul, acknowledges that. And the letter Yud in front of Yehuda makes it constant. So it's not by accident that we are called Yehudim, Jews, from the name Yehuda. Sorry, just warm here. Strong heat. Okay. So that part doesn't need a preface of the other 3 elements except to reveal the soul. In other words, the soul is there constantly from within to reveal the soul, right? That we live with it, because by natural instinct and by default, we live with our animal soul. So in order that it should be revealed, that I'm aware of it, that it becomes something that I live with, then we need the other three brothers, meaning we need to have an appreciation of seeing godliness, hearing godliness, connecting through Torah. We need all of that. But that's only to reveal who I am. I am that without it. Right. But when we do reveal that, right, and again, that's interesting. You know, Reuven means to see, Shimon means to hear, seeing godliness, hearing, meaning understanding and appreciating godliness, and then Levi, which means to connect, to connect, and we connect through Torah, as we've explained at length. So all those elements are necessary elements in our lives to reveal who I am, the soul that I have within me, which comes Yehuda after the three. It doesn't make me, though. That's very important. I am, by virtue of having this Yehudi, this Jewishness in me, this soul within me, which defines me, again, as a Jew. And it is constantly there. Again, is the name Yehuda. It's so rich, the nuance over here. Yehuda coming from, well, Yehudi, that we're called Jew, Judah, right? And the name Yehuda again means hoidah, acknowledgement, acknowledging that which is greater than us that we're connected to. So the soul acknowledges its connection. It's completely surrendered to it. And the Yud constantly. But again, that's within us, doesn't mean it's revealed. It doesn't mean we live with that, even though that is our reality, deep from within. But when we do reveal that, how do we reveal it? Where do we reveal it? The very fact that you think it, talk that way, and act based on that, right? Just do it, do the mitzvah, right? Because that's what you are. So then the verse continues, and it says, Yadcha, the verse continues concerning Yehuda, right? It says, Yehuda, your brothers will acknowledge. And it says, the verse continues, Yadcha, your hand will be on the neck of your enemy. So listen to what this is saying. This is like, so, wow. How do you deal with the enemies of Israel? How do you deal with an anti-Semite? How do you deal with, those who want to destroy Israel? The Jewish, I mean, you know, the, so here it's saying to us, when we reveal the acknowledgement of our soul, right? In other words, we reveal who we are, a Jew. Right? Because that's what the verse is saying over here. then your hand will be on the neck of your enemy, spiritually and also physically. Let in. Okay. Because, of course, the verse has to be understood literally. Just that statement alone is like unbelievable. Others act like a Jew in thought, speech, and action, meaning reveal the soul that you have from within you, whether it's through prayer, which then you need the preface of Ruvain, seeing godliness, hearing godliness, right? Connecting through Torah to God. And then you come to the Amida, right? Meaning you then reveal your core self in the Amida. You're literally standing before God, and God is listening, eagerly listening to your prayers. Right. So when you're aware of that and live that, then what you're producing is your hand is on the nape of the enemy. No guns here. Well, this is our gun. And then it says, first he says spiritually, but he says it can't be just spiritually, it has to be physically. Because the verse means it physically. You can't take the verse out of its simple context. And it does mean it physically. So continues. It's interesting. When I first learned this, I must say, I learned it and it didn't like I guess sit with me. It didn't. Whoa, pretty powerful statement. So after that, then it says in the verse, Gur Arya Yehuda, that the lion will dwell of Yehuda that will not Lo Yoser Sheva mi Yehuda, that the scepter will not be removed from Yehuda, meaning leadership, kingship. So what the Rebbe wants to say is that, therefore the verse, when it speaks about that that the hand of the Jewish people is on the neck of our enemy, that might be maybe only in the times of Mashiach, or in the transformation of that time to that time. But since the verse says that the scepter will not leave Yehuda, so it must mean then the verse that the hand of the Jewish people will be on the neck of our enemies is also before redemption. Because when it says the scepter will not leave Yehuda, that's referring to King David and King Solomon, right? That, of course, from them will be the offspring from them will be Mashiach, King Mashiach, right? And then, King David will be forever, through him will be eternal kingship of the Jewish people. But before that, because the verse is speaking, in reference to King David and King Solomon. So before the end of exile, there will be this situation that our hands will be on the neck of the enemy. Now you got to understand how this is completely like, doesn't make sense in the experience of the Jewish people. Last 2,000 years, whose hand has been on the neck of who? Well, the non-Jewish world, right, wherever we've been, was on the neck, the nape of the Jewish people. Whether it was through crusades, whether it was through pogroms, whether it was, living in ghettos, or whether it was being thrown out of over 100 countries in the last, 1,000, 2,000, it might just be only 1,000 years. I'm not certain, maybe 2,000. Right? So that the Rebbe is explaining this, and that the verse is hinting over here to the times before the end of exile, that it's the opposite, that the Jewish people have their hand on the neck of the enemy. Whoa, that's never happened. And and then here's the, and what does that mean, that our hand will be on the neck of the enemy? It means that they're going to be fearful of us. They can be fearful. And this is the important point. Why they fearful? Because of the revealing, the acknowledgement of the general soul of the Jewish people that we acknowledge. Our Jewishness, our connection to God, until that it comes into thought, speech, and action in following the ways of Hashem. And through this, well, the fear will fall upon the nations of the world. This is happening in Israel today. I mean, with the hostages when they came back, and the fact that they're all speaking about God with them in the tunnels, speaking about their divine connection, and not just speaking about that, God was with them, but they're now expressing it in thought, speech, and action of greater devotion to Torah mitzvahs in a literal way. That is totally unique. And this is what the verse is saying over here. This is what the Rebbe is explaining in the Mimer that he said in 1977, right? That and this is key, that the fear, as much as it is of the power of the IDF, it's more of the power of the Jewish soul, and that the Jewish soul expresses itself to act like a Jew. That big, greater fear. That's the Jewish way to defeat the enemy. That when you stand before Hashem in the Amidah, that it's you, your core, speaking to God, and that it's precious to God. And therefore you speak differently. Chaim. You're revealing your neshama. That's then in prayer. And in whatever else, that whatever, and we're going to continue with this idea. But revealing the Jew in me, people think in this time where there's more anti-Semitism, so, you got to hide your Jewishness. I got to reveal our neshama. And that is actually what brings the fear upon the nations. And that's a very, general thing. As it ever says over here, that through the revelation of the acknowledgement of the general of neshama of the Jewish people, that it comes through thought, speech, and action. That's how the enemies, right? Now, of course, it doesn't mean not to have a strong a strong IDF, very much so. And it's interesting. Our enemies were taken by the fact that hostages were resolute in their belief in God and their connection to God, as many stories have been told. And they're not affected by the fact that they're being, massacred, dropping like flies. That doesn't seem to deter them. It doesn't seem to deter them. Yeah, we've killed a lot of terrorists, but they're still determined on every front. Okay, so it's less of a scare now because they don't have the power they had before. But in a certain way, it's really no different. They're just resolute as they were before. They don't have maybe good leadership, and thank God. But their resolve to fight, whether it's Hezbollah, Hamas, whoever, hasn't changed. And it's not going to change, not based on fighting, but it'll change the more the Jew lives with their Jewishness, with their neshama, with their divine soul, and reveal that divine soul. That's where it's going to change. Wow. To me, this is like, I can't, first of all, the Maimon that it says this is like unbelievable. And that, for me, it's like, there's no question that that's the reality on the field. You have to kind of tease it out and see it. But, definitely the hostages and even in Israel, people getting closer to Torah mitzvahs than ever before. Now that most people don't realize is that this is the antidote against evil, which ultimately means light over darkness. So what's the ultimate light? Me and my divine soul. So, that's revealed. Oh, that's, fully out there. So, yeah, that's the ultimate light. And how do that we reveal, of course, through this. We're going to learn more about that. Every mitzvah that we do.